and welcome to the next edition of Chocobo Chasers. I am joined by the Chocobros, Eric and Dash, and we are absolutely thrilled to be welcoming our next guest, veteran voice actor Peter Jessop. Peter voices characters from some of our absolute favorite games, such as Sovereign from Mass Effect, Albert Wesker in Resident Evil HD, as well as Paladin Danse and Fallout 4, among many of his other roles. Peter, it is awesome to have you on here tonight.
Glad to be here. Nice to meet you all.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Thank you so
Pleasure
much.
to have
This
you
is
on.
Awesome.
Eric, why don't you go ahead and kick us off, man?
So big news recently in the acting writing industry. There's the strikes going on. You were outside. I followed your feed today. Saw you were outside picketing earlier today. Is there any advice you have for your fellow actors or anything like that specifically you'd like to talk about?
As far as picketing goes, it's hot out there. Make sure you hydrate and put on sunscreen. I sunscreened the hell out of myself, and my lips got sunburned because the one thing I forgot to cover was my lips. I'm like, why do my lips hurt? Oh,
gotta get that SPF 50 chapstick going.
Yeah, no kidding. So tomorrow, that's what I know I'm going to have to wear.
So everyone stay safe out there. That's the key. Dash, you wanna go next then?
So the original Resident Evil's voice acting is kind of notorious for its campiness. When you were cast as Wesker for the remake, did you do any prep for that with the original or take any inspiration from anything?
Even back then, they didn't really tell us what it was we were working on. Now they use code names. Back then, they just said, it's a video game and didn't tell us which one it was. So I didn't really have a chance to do any research on the original Resident Evil because I didn't know that's what I was working on. Huh. So no, I guess the short answer to that.
It's kind of this huge veil of secrecy. And I mean, I guess like they're kind of doing stuff like that now because you have so many leaks that are happening and so many different things like that. You've been lucky enough to kind of, talk, voice a few different actors and characters who've let me rephrase this a little bit. So we as a podcast, we've been lucky enough to talk to a few different voice actors who've had, I'd say, kind of various different paths into this industry. Obviously yourself included. You've worked both live action, you've worked voice acting, and one thing that we've talked to, at least with all of our previous actors, has been kind of a really common focal point, and that was all of them started with a huge love for theater. Does that resonate with you, and how did that kind of lead you into this path right now?
Oh yeah, no, I started out, doing, I grew up in a university town. So when I was a kid, they had the university youth opera. And I thought, okay, that'll be fun. And we did, like the children's chorus in Carmen and singing the Toreador song and that kind of stuff. And then high school theater, college, I majored in theater. So did a lot of stage work then. Got involved once I moved to Los Angeles with a really good Shakespeare company, which is a rarity here in the US. It's I'll just put it that way. A good Shakespeare company in the US is hard to find. You can find a good one, but this one was really good. So, and a lot of the actors that were involved in it, you've seen on every TV show you've ever watched.
Yeah. So. Everyone, I feel like that's kind of where you start to see their passion as a thespian kind of just shine through originally. Dash, I'll go ahead and I'll hand it over to you, man.
Yep. So with Destiny 1, you're the Exo male guardian, and you've been credited as being that role since the first game, even though it's been the silent protagonist back then and didn't get its first spoken line until Destiny 2 Forsaken. So was that kind of just like you doing the grunts and death sounds and up to that point?
Yeah, pretty much. When Destiny 2 first started out, it was all just efforts. There was no dialogue.
Were there any original plans for spoken lines up to that point, or until Forsaken came around, then it was?
Honestly, I don't know. Hang on 1 second. I'm going to mute this because I'm about to sneeze.
Yep, it's all good.
Gesundheit.
There you go. As far as once they started adding in dialogue for the player character, that was second expansion.
Yeah.
And then someone messaged me on Xbox and said, "Hey, why am I hearing your voice? I'm running an Awoken." And I was like, I don't know. And then I checked, and they'd cut the voice cast down to me for the males, and they'd brought in Zara to take over all the female roles. So, who knows? I've given up trying to figure out what the higher ups at any industry that I work in have got going on.
You just kind of go in and do what you're told, right?
I go in, I do my job. Exactly. So,
Eric, why don't you go ahead and follow that one up?
Your Twitter bio says you're a gamer. Is there any
Yeah.
specific games that you've been playing right now? List some of your favorites. And then are there games you play where you're like, shit, man, this would have been awesome to be this character?
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I'm an RPG guy, really.
Okay.
When my kids were younger, we used to do, 4-person competitive shooters.
Mhm.
A couple of my actor buddies are also gamers, and we used to do, back in the old days, Unreal Tournament
Oh, yeah.
was the first big
yeah.
one that you
One of
could
the
do.
best, man.
You could do online with your buddies. You didn't have to all be in the same room with your Xboxes hooked up together or your PlayStations hooked up together. And, so right now, I'm waiting for Starfield.
So are we.
That's our week. Yeah.
I've been playing Fallout 76, No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky really is just for
Just when you turn the brain off, I feel like it's kind of the
when
perfect
you just want to
game.
kind of wander around and check stuff out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Minecraft.
Yeah, exactly. And there are times in the evening when I pull out, I do the iPad version of Minecraft.
There you go.
Yeah. So
Josh, why don't you go next, man?
So you have about 30 years of experience in the gaming industry. How's the growth of the industry changed for you, if at all, during that time?
well, when we started out, there was no it was not union. There was no union deal. So some of the early stuff that I did, Monkey Island and Mech Warrior, it was the Wild West back in those days. And you say, "I'll do it for so much money." And they would say, "But we'll pay you this much money." And then you'd agree on something, and there was no contract, and you just went in and did it. I like it better now because there's a process, and there's a pay scale, and all that stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more protection, I believe, for you
Yeah.
guys right now than back then, for sure.
Yeah. And as far as the actual work itself goes, back in the early days, you had to be able to say the line in under 7 seconds because that was as large of a file as they could put together. So that's why a lot of the dialogue and some of the early stuff is sort of broken up, because you had to record a 7-second bit, and then a 7-second bit, and then a 7-second bit, and then they'd tie them together to make it sound like a sentence. And it's like, ooh, so
Definitely amazing what
that's
they
changed
did
a
back
lot.
then.
That's much easier.
So being a prominent voice actor is probably a little bit of an understatement, especially like Dash said, you have 30 years in the gaming industry. But not only that, some of the franchises that you've been a part of are staples, not only in video game history, but really pop culture history as well. Resident Evil, Alien, the DC universe, and that's honestly just to name a few. So what would you say that experience has been like, just being kind of a part of those ever-growing histories and being kind of the next person to carry on that mantle, and then also kind of just passing that along to kind of just everybody else going forward?
I love what I do. It's the coolest job in the world, as far as I'm concerned. The DCU stuff and the Marvel stuff that I've done. I'm super proud of the Avengers, the version we did. In fact, I ran into James Mathis III today on the picket line. We hadn't seen each other in a while, and we got caught up a little bit. He was T'Challa in that series, and I got to play Superman. How cool is that?
Yeah,
I was like, So my kids bought me a Superman ring, which I wear. I don't have it on now, but I do wear it frequently. It's cool. It's fun. And some of the people that I've gotten to work with when I did Justice League versus Fatal 5, and I got to play Tharok, I actually got to work with Bruce Timm. And that was a big bucket list thing for me. I got to work with Kevin Conroy playing Batman, which I never thought I was going to get a chance to do because he retired right after we did Escape from Arkham. And I had a big fight scene with Batman. And I was like, oh, great, I'm going to get to work with Kevin. And I showed up and I was like, where's Kevin? And they're like, oh, he already recorded his efforts. He's in New York. I was like, gosh. And then 2 years later, he had come back and was doing Justice League Action. And I got cast as Steppenwolf, and I came in and I got to sit in the booth and work with him. And I thought, okay, check that one off. That's, yeah, there are a lot of really iconic people that I got a chance to work with. I'm a big fan. Did a couple projects with Mark Hamill. That was,
yeah.
I was in nerd heaven. So I hope that answered your question.
Oh, it's please just name drop all you want, because we're in awe right now. No, that's absolutely amazing. Eric, Dash, do you guys have any other questions you guys wanted to ask Peter?
Anything else on that bucket list like that you want to do? Because I'm really curious what else you have on it.
I'd like to try anime. Honestly, I think that would be fun. Part of the reason I haven't been doing it is most of it's non-union. I know that's starting to get some union work. I actually reached out to Stephanie Shea, who does a lot of anime casting and directing, and said, hey, you got union projects, I'm available. So we'll see if that happens. I'm actually developing an animated series, have been developing for a couple of years now, about a new wave band in the 80s, which I think is a kind of a cool story. And it's going to have original music every week written by the guy that he was Iggy Pop's guitar player and played with David Bowie and Tin Machine, and knows all these great, new wave musicians from the 80s, and we're going to have them do cameos. And it's got an amazing voice cast already. I've talked to a bunch of people that I know, and they're all on board. That's awesome. That's the next bucket list thing for me, is to get that produced and up on the air. So
that is awesome. Eric, what about you, man? Do you have anything else you want to follow that up with?
We're going to take some of the characters you voiced. Which one in particular are you more partial to than the others?
I would say either Paladin Danse or The Vision. And both because it's, as far as, they're two of the most complex characters I got to play. Here's Paladin Danse. He's Brotherhood of Steel. He hates synths, he hates mutants, and then he finds out he's a synth, and he's got to do all this, reconcile all this stuff in his head. And the same sort of thing with The Vision. It's that, am I real? Am I a real person? How do I? It's so much fun to play. So yeah, I would say those two are my favorites.
Okay, awesome.
when it comes to like the role of Wesker, I know that it's gone through like so many different voice actors over the years. Was there any reason in particular you didn't come back for Resident Evil 0 that came out shortly after the remake for 1?
Oh, they went to Canada. Yeah, they went non-union, took the production to Canada, and that's when Richard Waugh took over. And then when they brought it back, they were still, I think, non-union.
I think I remember reading that Richard wasn't available, and that's when the current one ended up taking over.
And then DC Douglas took over.
Yeah.
And DC's an old friend of mine, and he actually called me up and he said, "Hey, I've got this audition," and they sent me 2 voice files to try and match. And one of them's you. You okay with that? And I was like, yeah, it's a video game, go for it. You know. And it was still early days, you know, so it was like, yeah, well, it's just a video game, it's fine. And he latched onto Wesker and, you know, took it to whole new realms. So
yeah, I think he definitely did it for the most number of games, looking at the list, at least.
I think so, yeah.
Is that common where just kind of like because of the union work, you might lose out on a role or not?
Not necessarily. You know, I did a job. I can't think of the name of the game now. But I play Al Capone in City of Sin, City of Vice. It's a
Empire of Sin, maybe?
Empire of Sin. Thank you. And they reached out to me because I had done Al Capone as a character for basically an online ad for it. And they said, "We really loved the Al Capone. We want to make him a playable character. Would you be interested?" And I said, "I'd love to, but it needs to be a union contract." And they're in Europe. They're an Irish game company. And they said, okay. And they got a signatory in the United States. And we, you know, I did it under a union contract. So you don't have to lose out on the work. I think it's really up to the game companies whether or not they want to do it that way. And these guys did. So I was very appreciative of that. And it's a fun game. I actually have played it.
Yeah, that's actually made by John Romero too, which is one of the bigger developers in the history of game development, since he goes all the way back to the original Doom.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, I think that was like one of his first games that he did under his own Romero Games
interesting
development studios once he broke away from id.
I loved Doom.
Oh yeah, that's the big old classic right there.
That was a 90s classic. Doom and Wolfenstein.
Which, speaking of Wolfenstein, you actually did do.
I did a Wolfenstein. It was funny too, because it was not a big hit, the version I did.
It was definitely different.
I think that was part of it. They're like, we're gonna break the mold, we're gonna, you know, change things up. And it was the same sort of thing when don't get heat stroke. I'll tell you that right now. My brain is completely fried.
I was walking around downtown Tampa over the weekend. I was in this heat. It was terrible. So
yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah. Anyway, that's just, you know, I think that's why I didn't, because they decided to change things up and not go with the formula. Like when James Bond, you know, changed the formula before Pierce Brosnan came back in, and everybody got mad about it. And, I thought those were good movies.
Yeah.
And then once Daniel Craig came in, they went back to that same formula that the movies that people hated, because Bourne Identity had come out and the whole idea of action films had changed and blah, blah, blah. But the hell is his name now? Come on, help me out here, guys. He was the police chief in Hot Fuzz.
A Hot Fuzz.
Let's see. The Google machine is going to tell us what we need to know.
You can edit all this out of my not being able to figure it out. Right?
No, it's okay.
Are we referring to Bill Nye here?
No.
Oh man, is he in Harry Potter too? You talking about the one where he's Danny's father in Hot Fuzz, Nick Frost's father? I cannot think of that guy's name.
No, he's the evil police chief in Hot Fuzz. He's
he's
the head of the Time Lords in Doctor Who.
Isn't that Jim Broadbent?
No.
Or
I'm gonna find it.
No, for Christ's sake.
Or Timothy Dalton.
I want to
Timothy Dalton. Thank you.
I don't know why I couldn't think of that.
Simon
and he was
Skinner.
James Bond. And he was a great James Bond.
I think he's one of the only actors to play him for, what was it, a single movie too?
He did 2 movies.
2, okay.
Yeah. Lazenby did 1. But yeah, he did 2 movies. And I think The Living Daylights and not the other one was, but he goes rogue. And he's shooting up bad guys, and he's getting revenge for the woman he fell in love with and married, and they killed her. And it was good cinema. They're like, no, where are the gadgets? Where's the Aston Martin? Where's this, the sexy girls and the cocktails? And it's like, dude,
that's not real life.
They changed the formula. People complained. They changed the formula back. Pierce Brosnan did a bunch of movies, which was great. And then, Daniel Craig comes along and they change it back to the whole Timothy Dalton formula.
Right. And now we get to see the next evolution potentially with, whomever they end up casting.
Whoever they come up with. It's
Right.
not
Who's your ideal Bond?
Well, it's not me. I can tell you that. They've already called me and told me, sorry, we're going to pass. James Bond has to actually have hair. So.
Oh, that's an insult.
Yeah,
I know. Right?
We're
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. So that was a wild tangent. We just went off.
No, it was, but it was fun nonetheless.
Yeah. And if I ever meet Timothy Dalton, he's going to kick me in the face. So.
All right. Well, our last question for you,
Yes.
and this is really just a fun though quick one. Who's the most famous person you saw in the picket line today?
Either Bob Odenkirk or Alfred Molina.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
those are some heavy hitters.
Yeah,
I know Bob's a huge.
Bob's a WGA
proponent.
guy
Yeah.
too, so he's been out there the whole time with them. And I saw Alfred today.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
And we are a huge supporter of what you guys are fighting for. I think, anybody with common sense should be, but just it shouldn't have to go without saying, yeah, we're a huge supporter of the strike that writers and actors are doing right now. And we hope it gets settled soon, because we'd obviously love to see everybody. I mean, in a perfect world, everybody gets to go back to work under actually fair compensation and, some true regulatory guidelines that are going to ensure a better future going forward. But we'll just have to wait and see, because these things.
Yeah, part of the difference this time around. Well, actually, it's the similarity this time around. Back in 1960, the last time they had a double strike like this, television was a new media.
Yeah.
Oh, we've only been around for 12 years. We don't know how to work out a payment schedule, blah, blah, blah. And they hammered out a deal. They got a pension. They got health insurance. They got residuals. Back in the 80s, when cable TV came out and tried the same thing, they got away with it. Oh, we're a new media. We don't know how to track the usage and blah, blah, blah. We can't afford to pay as much. And so we kind of got screwed on cable TV. And then streaming came and killed both of them. So streaming, the new media contract right now, they're like, oh, we're a new media. You're as old as television was when television ponied up. And it's literally the exact same issues. My friend Elias Tufexis did Son of Zeus. great animated show on Netflix. And when it came out, it was the #1 show on Netflix for like 2 weeks. And he said, wow, I had no idea how little they were going to pay me. Because he got nothing. They had the #1 show for 2 weeks that these guys had done. They got their session fees. Poof, you're done.
Yeah, I think the director for Squid Game got
Yeah,
pretty shafted.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
And the thing is, with the contract we had for television, the session payments that you have are designed with residuals in mind. So they're a fraction of what you would get if you were just doing it all up front, because they know that they're going to be paying you more later. This is how we pay it out. And with the implementation of the streaming paradigm, you're getting paid that same smaller session fee because you have residuals coming in, but there are no residuals coming in. So they're literally cutting out 3/4 of your pay. And it's not like we're asking for something new or big. We're asking for them to give back something they took away. Is the way I look at it.
Is AI a factor in this one now too?
It is. I've already had to contact a couple of different voice cloning websites and say, hey, you don't have my permission to use my voice. Please take any characters you have up with my voice off of your site. You know, I mean, it's what I do for a living.
Yeah.
This is how I make my money. And
Right.
I appreciate some of the technical achievements that AI can achieve, but to have somebody else creating content using my voice, that's just straight up theft.
Yep.
You know, to me, AI is theft. Same thing with artists. You know, somebody was telling me when I was trying to put together the character breakdowns for the show that I'm trying to put together, they said, oh, just, you know, type it into an AI generator. And I was like, that takes a job away from somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, I don't have a lot of money in my budget, but I can hire somebody and I can pay them to draw these characters. That's how this business works. So
that's how I felt watching the Secret Invasion opening, because they use AI to create that. And I'm just like, someone could have done this and much better.
I skipped that.
Yeah.
I hit skip intro. So
yeah, it's a crazy time out there, I think is probably the understatement of the century. But yeah, we definitely stand in solidarity with you guys on the picket line, and we do hope this all gets sorted out sooner rather than later. And I mean, just like you said, it sounds like it is. Public sentiment definitely seems like it's leaning more on the actor's side than it is obviously on the executive side. To see these people making hundreds of millions of dollars, like these executives of streaming services and these huge, you know, production companies, things like that. And so it's obviously hard, especially when you hear things like they could take, you know, 2% from the top, you know, 10 people who work at a company, and then it solves all of these problems. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Well, Peter, we definitely want to thank you. This has been an absolutely enlightening interview, but it's also been a lot of fun. We had an absolute blast talking to you tonight, and I think our listeners are going to really enjoy this conversation here.
Yeah, I had fun. It was great meeting you guys.
Oh, yes.
Thank you so much.
Good luck to you.
Absolutely.
Good luck to you.
We will catch everybody next time. Thanks for listening to our interview with Peter Jessop here.